Alright, so to just about finish the night up, we're going to finish our beers and then we're going to talk about football. And I'll hold up.
We'll do it while we're talking about football.
Yeah, we'll do it all at the same time. Yeah. And if I can find out what way this flag goes. This is my team. Curtis doesn't really enjoy this team.
Yucky color. Just.
He likes the green and yellow compared to the green and white.
Yeah.
But
green and gold. It's the green and gold.
Sorry. Like, I didn't know there was much of a difference. But
there is.
Your foam finger keeps falling.
Well, it's because I'm moving in my chair. I'm just so excited to be here.
I can tell you're excited. And I'm glad you're excited for the first episode of this. And I hope we can keep this going. But,
absolutely. Once summer comes, it'll be
we'll try and do
weekly, bi-weekly thing.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. You know, we had a lot of stuff to talk about, so it hopefully won't go this long all the time because I don't think I have the patience for it to go another 2 hours. But
I think a lot of the things, like with summer, a lot of the stuff will be kind of either wrapping up or mostly just
there won't be much to talk about. Like when summer comes, it'll be football and and I'll talk baseball, but like you won't be into that, so I'll be like, well, I'll talk my stuff and then that'll be it. Like,
and that's the thing too. I think it's also nice that there's a less gap between that hockey football gap.
Yeah.
Where normally us Canadians are sitting here for 2-3 months, just kind of twiddling our thumbs, saying, what the hell are we gonna do between hockey and football season, because we literally have nothing else unless you go down to the local rink, and even that hockey is just garbage. But with the shortened season and the lengthened, or even not even really the lengthened, it's just they kind of push the playoff slot over.
Yeah, and then playoffs will go until about end of June, so it'll be July, August, September, and back at it. You're at hockey again.
Yeah.
And especially it's gonna be really. Actually, this is getting we're getting off topic, but it'll be interesting to see how the teams that go until July 30th, until to the end of the season, how are they going to react with only you think about this, only gonna be 2 months of off season.
Yeah.
That's not much time because once spring training, baseball. Once
spring training, football and baseball.
Training camp. Once training camp starts for them, they're going to be right on their wire and they're going to be really rushed again. So that's what happens when you get a shortened season and a lockout. So the rule of thumb is never have a lockout. But of course, Gary Bettman never follows that rule of thumb and has a lockout every 9 years. So
we're not going to talk about Gary Bettman because every Canadian thinks he should be out of the system, and we should find someone who actually finds love for the game, not just the money. But that's beside the point.
All right, so you threw your Rider flag out there, so I guess I'll ask you about the Riders. They got some new players this season. G. Royce Simon, that's a big signing, right?
It's
a big trade.
Huge for us.
And so what are your expectations for this season?
I can see Saskatchewan coming out just like they were many other seasons, where they have a strong start of the season, preseason, and just started the season, 3-4 games come out nice, hard, and strong, and then kind of fizz out for the next 3, 4, 5 games, and then just at the end of the season they're starting to hit their peak again. So I always find Saskatchewan has that, but the couple of years where they did make the Grey Cup and even the finals, like that steep that they found actually worked for them. So I think this season it's going to be even harder because they're having G. Royce Simon. He's a phenomenal player. All of a sudden on their team, even though they're practicing with him, you don't know how your team and him is going to react in a game situation.
And the thing is, G. Royce Simon is another year older. He's a great wide receiver, but he is another year older. He's not getting much younger, and he's already, I don't know what he is, 35, 36.
Yeah, he's
pretty old. But he's still a very good receiver, and it'll help Darian Durant out. He's still Durant? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
been a while.
Yeah, it's Durant.
Yeah.
I have to think about that because we've gone through a few quarterbacks over the last couple seasons.
But you know what? I think it all lies in Darian Durant. I think with that team, and I think they have enough talent. They had Getzlaff and all, those guys.
Getzlaff and Dressler are still there, which are phenomenal players. Yeah. As long as Durant puts the ball out there, those two boys are going to be there every single time to catch it.
Yeah. So to me, I think the secret to the Riders is Well, they got to make sure their defense is tough enough. I don't know if it was tough enough last year. Sometimes it let them down a little bit.
It was lacking a little bit last year. Ever since we got rid of a few players, down to the American Football League, like down to the NFL, where there was John Chick. Andy Fantuz went down for spring training camp. He came back and he completely fizzed out because he was good going into the NFL training camp, and then he pulled his shoulder. He hurt a little something, where he couldn't come back right away to the Riders after the training camp. Yeah. So, and I think that was a huge setback for us.
Yeah. No, you know, I like I said, if you can figure out your defense, you can get the defense figured out, and then figure out your quarterback situation. You know, is Darian Durant the guy that's going to lead you to the Grey Cup? You know, he's had 2 chances to do it, and he couldn't do it on either time. You know, I'm not even going to talk about the too many men. You know, he had 2 chances to do it, and he didn't get them there. So, if he doesn't get the job done this year, I might start looking for a new quarterback because, you know, I like Durant, but I think he's maybe just not at that level, and that could be it.
And that's the thing too. People actually really liked Kerry Joseph. Can't talk Kerry Joseph when he was around, but it just seemed like he was still at almost at amateur level, where we're looking for that pro level.
Yeah. Well, but even Kerry Joseph got you a Grey Cup.
He did get us a Grey Cup, and we're thankful for that. But I think Durant is almost he's in that in-between level where he has that amateur game and then a pro game, and then an amateur game, and then a pro game. He doesn't consistently stick playing CFL.
Yeah. Has to put up the consistent numbers in order to win over the fan base, I think. Cause
exactly.
Right now, if I'm a Rider fan, I'm worried about Darian Durant. Yeah. That's what I'm worried about.
That's your biggest thought?
Yeah. You want to hear about the Eskimos? Probably not.
Oh, might as well. Even though I don't want to hear about it, like I do enjoy hearing about, because we always have this provincial rivalry.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a big rivalry. You know, I would almost say the Rider-Eskimo rivalry is almost bigger than the Calgary-Edmonton rivalry. And
even bigger than the Saskatchewan-Winnipeg.
You think so?
I think so. Like, cause
the Banjo Bowl is huge, though.
The Banjo Bowl is huge, but if you think about it, every Rider game you go to, not 3/4, but even 2/3 of the people sitting in that stadium are going to be cheering Rough Riders.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing that the Saskatchewan Rough Riders has pushing them through is their fan base.
Oh, for sure. No, they got some of the craziest melon heads in the world. You know, it's just.
I'm looking for that maybe this year. I might do that if we get the football.
They're absolutely insane, but. Yeah, we can talk about the Eskimos a bit. You know, they made some nice off-season moves. You know, they got a new general manager, thank God. You know, Eric Tillman was flat out awful for us. You know, I know he helped you guys out a bit, but oh man, you know, he just never clicked with the Edmonton Eskimos. Never even moved to the Edmonton area. He worked out of his home in I'm not even sure where it was. I think it's in Saskatchewan or Winnipeg somewhere.
Nobody even really knows. Like, no, even though Eric Tillman was like working for us, you never really heard a whole lot about him. Where like Corey Chamberlain, like, and your guys' head coach, like, you hear, even though it's like, yes, it's more press for them, but it's almost like you know more about the person instead of, hey, like, your head coach is showing up to the practice today. That's cool, right? Like, you kind of even though it's not a personal level, it's just like you know a little bit more about.
Definitely inside the offices of the Edmonton Eskimos, it was just a little uneasy. Like, nobody was really liking to come to work anymore, and that's a huge turnoff for anybody. You know, employers or employees, that's awful.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think I love Ed Hervey as the new general manager. You know, former Edmonton Eskimo. He knows the game. He knows the team. He knows the franchise.
And he knows the crowd, which is huge.
Yeah, exactly. And he knows what it takes to win. And you know, I like the move. And you know, of course, one of the first moves, as you pointed out, he went out and got a couple players. I'll talk about the players in a minute, but he ended up signing a player. I'm actually not even too familiar with it. I know that he did something where he went out to try and sign a player, and he did it with based not on the guidelines of the CFL. Yeah. So the team got fined $10,000. Now I'm not too sure what it is, but you know, I think a part of it is, you know, Ed Hervey's coming in, new general manager. He's new to the business side of the game. He's used to being a player, right? So
And he's just used to doing whatever he wants, whenever he wants, even though it's not exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's just he's not used to these little stipulations and rules that these general managers and people in the management side have to focus on.
Yeah, exactly. When you're on an executive position in any company or any sport, there's always little things that you just kind of like, really, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And maybe that was one of those red tape issues that you just kind of, you're supposed to do this, and so you didn't do it, so we'll fine you $10,000. But the other thing I will say to that is if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So.
Yeah.
They got the player. They ended up getting the player they wanted, and $10,000. CFL is quite a bit of money. But you know what? I think it's not going to be a big issue for them moving forward. I think a big issue moving forward for them is the quarterbacking situation, and I think they've addressed that quite well. Yeah. With Matt Nichols going down in the playoffs last year when just Steven Giles. Surprise, surprise, that didn't work. I never saw that coming. Like, really? Steven Giles as a starting quarterback? Really? I could see that coming from a mile away. And, no, let's just put him in starting quarterback. Fine. So, but, Matt Nichols came in. He did a good job. He did all right for having not much training at all. And when Kerry Joseph was in there, he did okay. I wasn't a fan of Kerry Joseph much, just because...
Nobody was a huge fan of Kerry Joseph until he made those big plays where it's that 40, 50, 60-yard Hail Mary pass, or that huge run where your running back will get the ball and make it through the line and bust his ass down and get a huge run. That's the only time people actually saw Kerry Joseph.
Yeah. Whenever I turned on the TV, Kerry Joseph was doing something, he was backtracking in his own zone. He was making a wild play, and would have made it. If he made it, it looked like a genius. If he didn't, he looked like an idiot. And that's what it was with Kerry Joseph. And he's old too. You can't play with an old quarterback for too long. But now Matt Nichols hopefully will be back from his injury that he suffered in the playoffs. And they also got Mike Riley from the BC Lions, who was a backup quarterback for them when Travis Lulake went out. And if you remember that, he actually did really well with the BC Lions. So we're kind of excited about that. We got two young quarterbacks that are going to be battling for the #1 spot. Now, it could be premature for both of them, but at least there's that rivalry that once we get, a year or two into this, we're going to call it a rebuild, even though it's not really one. In Edmonton, we like the word rebuild. But,
because that's all they're used to, especially with their hockey team, where that's all they're working with.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm excited for this season. I think I like the quarterback situation a lot better than I did last year, especially. They had
especially after the big Ricky Ray trade.
Yeah,
that was huge. That was just about as big as the Iginla trade to Pittsburgh.
It was. Like for the CFL wise, that was as big as it could pretty much get. The only thing bigger would have been Anthony Calvillo getting traded, and you can't see that happening.
That would never happen.
It was always Ricky Ray. And it was always kind of Edmonton and Montreal in those those big rivalry playoff games. They played 3 times within I think 5 or 6 years in the Grey Cup. It was always Ricky Ray versus Anthony Calvillo. Calvillo won one, and then Ray and Moss, or no, I think Jason Moss won one year, and then Ray came back and won one with the Eskimos against Calvillo, and that was just huge. But yeah, exactly. Like Ricky Ray, when they traded that, I looked at it and I thought, so we got a backup quarterback, a kicker, and a draft pick that we ended up trading for just nothing.
Yeah.
Like it was the most lopsided trade I've ever seen, and I'm so disappointed in our general manager for that. But at the same time, now we've gotten we kind of had to start over, because I will admit, Ricky Ray was a one-dimensional quarterback. He can throw. He can throw. He can't do anything else. He can throw.
Yeah.
He can put it in the right spot and he can throw, but he's a pocket passer. You're not going to get much versatility out of him. Although he did show a lot of it when he was with Toronto in the playoffs when it really mattered.
Yeah.
Go figure. But I like the way that we got our younger guys in there now. We got Matt Nichols and Mike Riley battling out for #1. I think our running back situation, it looks a lot better now than it did when we had 3 frickin' #1 quarterbacks with Jerome Messam and Corey Boyd and Hugh Charles. Now we only have Hugh Charles, and he was the better of the quarterback or the running backs out of all those 3.
Yeah.
Corey Boyd never fit in here. He just wasn't the guy we needed. And Jerome Messam, once he come back from Miami with the Dolphin tryout, I think it was the Dolphin tryout. We'll go with Dolphin tryout.
We'll say Dolphin, just for shits and giggles.
Yeah. Once he came back.
Comment below if you know where he went.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Miami, but once he came back from that, he just wasn't the same. Like you know, and when I looked at him, you know, it reminds me, and we'll get to our local football news in a bit, but it reminded me the way he ran. It reminded me of Billy Steele when he started playing running back. He's a friend of mine when I played high school ball. And
he's just a big goof.
He's a big. Well, back then he was a tall, skinny guy, but he had some beef on his bones, you know, and he would always run straight up, and he would run just straight up. He wouldn't be hunched over like a running back. He'd be straight up, just running and giving up.
Yeah.
And you know, as a running back, most of the time you're gonna get killed doing that because everybody's just gonna pounce on you and rip your bones apart and you know,
and just lay you right out, and then all of a sudden you wake up not even 20 minutes later, but even 5 seconds later, you just get blindsided, you get blackout hit, and I've had that happen in hockey before.
Yeah.
You get blackout hit, and all of a sudden you're just back up skating, you're like, what the hell even happened? Because you don't even know what happened because you're just not ready for that.
Yeah. No, I remember I played running back a couple of times in junior high when I was in grade 8. I did all right, but I got my bell rung once, and I'm like, I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
Because that's all that happens when you're running back. But anyways, you know, running back situation, receivers, we got Fred Stamps back. He was very good after the first couple weeks of the season where he didn't do much with Kerry Joseph or Steven Giles. Again, surprise, surprise. But I think in that sense we're doing all right. I think our offensive line's got to get better. I think our defense is doing okay. It was much improved. And we got to stop trading our first-round draft picks for kickers. We've done this like so many times. Like it is so stupid. Mid-season we traded a first-round draft pick for a kicker. A first-round draft pick for a kicker.
Like that's.
It doesn't make sense.
All the CFL followers, and even if you follow NFL, it might be different for NFL and CFL. That should never happen. Like your top pick is usually either a quarterback, linebacker, or running back.
Yeah. Or you know, I think Saskatchewan picked an old lineman not too long.
Yeah.
First overall. But I mean, like in the CFL, you know, there's 8 teams. You're gonna get another pick and 9 people. You know,
exactly.
So
it's not like you're waiting 47 teams to get a pick. So the biggest thing is to try and get your number one, either quarterback, even if it's a backup quarterback for whatever reason, just a random linebacker for some reason that's just all of a sudden have some phenomenal stats, or just like a random not even a random running back, but it's just a running back with some fairly good stats, and that's what you're looking for. Not these random kickers, because the kickers, if your quarterback and linebacker and your running back can perform the way they should, you shouldn't really need a kicker unless you're kicking for a field goal at the 25 or the 30-yard line.
Yeah, like, you know, the thing is, if I'm a general manager of any sports team, you got to realize the positions that you need to win. First of all, the positions you need to win. So just, you know, to win a game, the positions that come to mind: quarterback, running back. You need receivers, old linemen. You need all the intangibles in that. And then, you know, in the defensive side, you could always use a good defensive line or a good middle linebacker, corners, and a safety, and maybe a couple of D linemen. But like, you don't need any entire. You got to pick your positions, is what I'm saying. Yeah. And like, look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, where when they started drafting players in hockey, you know, they got Marc-Andre Fleury, goaltender. Okay, well, you need that to win. You got to have a good goaltender to win.
Yeah.
They got Crosby, they got Malkin. Yes, they got lucky winning a lottery and all that stuff, but they got their players. They got those guys, and then they started drafting. They got Letang, and they got some of these other guys, big guys, on defense. So then they had a good core group they could build around. So that's no different than the CFL. Because then what happened? Well, okay, so they were able to win. They were able to get to the playoffs.
Yep.
Now what do they need? They needed wingers. They needed somebody to play with Crosby. They needed somebody to play with Malkin.
Yeah.
Third, fourth line players. That's when you go and you say, okay, I'll trade a first-round pick for a kicker. That is what you do. You don't do that right away when your team...
You don't do that in the rebuilding process when you're still looking for those number one players like a Crosby, like a Malkin, or like a Fleury. Like, you just don't do that.
No, you don't. And that's what the Edmonton Eskimos were doing for too long. Even when Danny Machocha was with us, oh man, they were in some awful trades. Awful
trades. Head coach out on the field, but other than that, the trades that they were looking for.
That's basically what everybody from the Eskimo coaching management staff was basically saying. He was an alright coach. His management skills were awful.
Yeah.
So, I think Ed Hervey will be a fantastic choice, and I think this club is going to go up. So, I think that's all I wanted to say about the Eskimos for that. I think they'll make the playoffs this year. 75% chance of that being right, so might as well say it.
Before we go any further to local football, because that's a big topic here, how far do you think your Eskimos are going to go this year?
Well, I will say they'll probably go about the same as they did this year. I think they got to, they went to the East Final, or the East. No, they only went to the East semis this year.
Yeah,
right?
The East semis with the crossover.
Right, so they went to the East semis. So, okay, I'll go one further. I'll say they'll make the West Final. I'll say that. So I think they'll be able to get out of the basement of the West, and they'll somehow make it to the final. I don't think they'll host a game at all. I think they'll finish like third. I think with BC's always been so good. It'll be interesting to see how they react without Simon there. Rough Riders are always great, and Stampeders came off a pretty good season. And their quarterback will be healthy again. So that's how I see the Eskimos. What about your Riders? Where do you see them?
I think the Riders are going to make at least the Western Finals. Not just for the fact that I do like the Rough Riders, but for the few picks that they have gotten, where it's Giroy Simon, and they have all these receivers where it's Simon, Getzlaff, Dressler. They're all phenomenal receivers and catchers, where it doesn't even matter what the quarterback would say. They'd be like, run a zigzag post pattern for 15 yards, cut back 10 yards, and or cross to a left post or something. They could throw something like that out, and I think those players could run it and be able to catch it, and I think that's going to be the one thing that gets them through. Like, even though after John Chick and a few of these other big O-linemen have O-linemen and D-linemen have kind of been traded off and passed on to the NFL, I still think that if Durant can place the ball where he at least tells the players to play, he'll at least get to he'll at least be able to get to a spot, because once if the ball comes to those catchers at least vicinity, it's going to be in their hands, no doubt about it. And unless it's a floppy pass where the ball's doing literal flips, like if it's a shitty pass from Durant, then it's probably not going to be caught, and there will be the odd time it is caught. But if it's a good pass, and even if you don't see anyone running to that area, that ball's going to be caught, no doubt.
No, absolutely. So it'll be an interesting season. The season will start probably Canada Day long weekend like it always does, but we'll be following that. So I guess we got the last thing we have on our schedule here is just some local news, and we don't really have too much to. There's not too much sports going around here, The one thing we didn't have down, but I'll just mention it, I won't say anything about it, but the Wainwright Bisons, the Junior B team, they're in the Northeastern Alberta Junior B Finals right now. They've had a great season, but they're facing a tough Cold Lake Ice team who finished the season top of the standings in the league. They're in the finals right now. I believe Cold Lake has a 3-1 lead on the Bisons.
The Bisons have a 3-1.
No, the Cold Lake Ice do for sure.
Do they?
Yeah, for sure. So they're in tough. I think they're in Cold Lake tonight. I don't know how the game turned out.
I was checking Twitter earlier today to see if I knew.
I'm pretty sure
what the game was.
I'm pretty sure Cold Lake was up 3-1 in this series, but no, they're having a good year, and they're hosting provincials this year too. So they're not.
We're hosting provincials. I think there's even next weekend. There's a huge tournament, and if I can find the game, if it's up on Twitter.
Yeah, there's something. There's the Junior B provincials this year, so all teams from Alberta are coming to Wainwright for the Junior B provincial. So the Bisons will be there no matter what. I believe Cold Lake will be there for sure, and some other.
There's a bunch of teams because there's Okotoks, Calgary, Sherwood Park, Edmonton.
Yeah, there's a bunch of teams coming, so it's a big deal. If we can see if we can get the score coming up here.
OT thriller as Dallas Ansel puts a power play goal to the championship. That's
sounds to me like the Cold Lake Ice have won the Northeastern Alberta Junior Beef.
I would say so too.
Sounds like it. So
yeah.
Well, their season's not over though. So like I said, they still got provincials, and anything can happen there.
Yeah.
So like I said, the local news, there's not much happening here at all. We got our Junior B Bisons, and we used to have a senior team. We don't have it anymore.
Oh, it's coming back next year.
It sounds like it's coming back, but right now, I guess the big news that's kind of going around town right now is the former Wheatland Football League MVP Jess Below, who I played with and I had the pleasure of playing with. He was a great quarterback. Oh, he was a great mentor in that, and just a very quiet demeanor. And he's been playing with the University of Alberta Golden Bears the past 4 seasons, and been playing pretty well. You know, I was talking to Bob. I was not talking to him, obviously, but on Twitter, I mentioned to Bob Stauffer, you know, what do you think about Jess Below and on this team? And he says, you know, he's their second best receiver, and they're by far their best specialty teams player. You know, he was returning the ball for a lot of stuff, and he was just an all-pro athlete. You know, he could have done anything he wanted. He could have played hockey. He could have done anything.
Didn't he not play hockey too?
He played hockey for a little bit. I believe it was in Saskatchewan somewhere.
Well, I mean, during school he played with the Golden Bears hockey.
He didn't play Golden Bears hockey.
Did he? I think he did in the first year he played.
I don't think so.
He may have just figured out where he was, and he just tried football and hockey. Maybe. I could be wrong.
Maybe I'll look it up, but I don't think he did it. But I know he went to Saskatchewan to play a little bit, and he didn't like it at all. But anyways, so the big news around here is he went out for one of the CFL combines in Edmonton, you know, for just to see how he would stand, and unfortunately it didn't turn out very good. Not only did he not end up going to the big combine in Toronto, which is where all the big high draft picks go, he ended up leaving the combine with a torn ACL, and which required surgery, and he'll be out 9 months to a year playing time, and he still has 1 year left of eligibility for his CIS play, but pretty sure that not only his season next year will be done, but it sounds like his football playing career will be done.
That's a big injury.
It's a huge injury. That's absolutely awful.
That's every player's worst nightmare.
Absolutely.
Is to blow their ACL.
Yeah, that's
because if you blow your ACL, you can barely even walk.
No, it's definitely a career-ending injury for most people. You know, the pro athletes, they get all the treatment, they get all the special treatment they can.
Yeah, because
so you know, of course, whenever they get an ACL,
$1 million salaries, or even $2 million, or $3, $4, $5 million salaries can pay for stuff like that. These CIS players are basically either living off the insurance that their parents have, or paying out of their own pocket.
Yeah. Well, I believe what I heard was he'll get surgery in April or May. I believe it's May, and he'll be out for 9 to 12 months from that point on. And you know, of course, that takes up his CIS career basically. I think he's done. I think he's done his schooling this year, and
it's either this year or next year.
Yeah, and so you know, in hindsight, it'll be good for him. He'll be able to focus on his schooling. He's in kinesiology right now. You know, as much as people say, "Oh, schooling," or whatever, but you know, it's tough. CIS athletes are put under a lot of pressure. They gotta play. They gotta practice. Practice time eats into most of their sleep and their studying time. It's huge. I don't think I could do it. So,
and especially too with CFL, where you're basically playing games once a week, practicing 2 or 3 times a week, and you gotta work a second job on top of that because the CFL salary is not as high. Well, not near as high. Well,
no.
Nobody can. Well, everybody will agree that it's not near as high as what the NFL salary is.
No, I know it's no, but you know it's tough because you know I was telling all my buddies you know when we played with them that you know that is the one guy on our team that we were kind of looking at and saying, you know what, that he's going to the CFL. He's going to make the CFL someday.
And everybody was looking at him at the way and the way our town's going. Like nobody's really gone on to do something special or anything crazy.
Yeah.
So this is the one guy that we're looking forward to in our public school system, and being like, hey, this guy's going to go somewhere, and we're actually going to be proud of him and be awesome. And we're gonna follow him the whole way through.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and the last Wainwright player to actually make the CFL was I believe it was Kevin Westford. Remember him? He actually played high school ball here in Wainwright, and he ended up winning a Grey Cup with the Edmonton Eskimos not too long ago, actually.
Wow.
But you know, other than that, there haven't been too many players that come from the high school system. Actually, my uncle ended up getting a tryout with the Eskimos.
Nice.
Back in the day. He was a lineman in high school, and he tried out as a running back. Figure that one out, if you will. But anyways, so that's kind of what the news is, and it's very, it's kind of pretty sad news, actually. I was really looking forward to seeing him in the CFL one day.
It's really sad, too, because you always hear about the Alberta, like the U of A Golden Bears, doing really poorly, always losing in their games, but you'd see in their newspaper, always in these news broadcasts, that there's this Jess Flow doing a 110-yard run back, or he'd always have a phenomenal game where he makes the papers where they'd lose 36-0.
He by far Jess Flow was the best all-around athlete Wainwright High School ever had. So you know, it's he's still gonna be able to play. You know, once he gets he's gonna have surgery or whatever.
He could probably always play the Vandals.
He could probably play at the Lloydminster Vandals, who just won a national title for the Canadian Major Football League. I think that's what.
Whatever.
But you know, and he's still gonna play hockey and all that stuff. But you know, it's just tough to see, you know, a guy like that to go down like that. He's such a nice guy, you know, doesn't say a bad thing about anybody. We're almost out of time here, I guess. We've got about 1 minute or so left.
We'll try and keep talking.
But if we get cut out here, let's just do it. Like, comment, subscribe. Curtis_Murray on Twitter. Julio15 Bonjoli. Mega Diesel 15. So yeah, I guess what's your final comment?
Give us your final comment about who's going to be the #1 NHL pick. Talk about the NHL team that's going to make it to the finals and actually win the Stanley Cup, because you might have different thoughts about the team other than us. If you're into baseball, talk about it with us. Tweet to Curtis. Even though I don't follow, like, I can try and put my 2 cents in and see if I can not necessarily start a debate, but even see if it'll start a little bit of more of a conversation, and see if you guys can talk about more. WHL, there probably won't be a whole lot more to talk about. It's probably going to be Oil Kings and the Portland Winterhawks making it to the finals again, which probably won't be surprised.
And then all from there, it's going to be who's going to win the Memorial Cup. And if, you know, Bob Stauffer of the Oilers Now and on 630 Ched, he predicted preseason that
preseason for next year?
Preseason that they were going to win the Memorial Cup. We're almost out of time.
Oh,
so, so like, comment, subscribe.
All that good stuff.